Greetings and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. I'm humbled in the presence of Spirit and remain in service. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. All cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. Alright, so I'm going to continue the series here, the 27-9 Club, Volume 2, looking at Kurt Cobain. I must say my empath levels are very high. And I'm sure if you're watching this episode, you are a music lover. And of course, we're dealing with Kurt Cobain, who is known for many reasons, but ultimately for starting a new wave of music, grunge, whatever you want to call it. And certainly when I heard of his passing the morning I woke up, it was a head turner. The energy at the time, I felt a lot of dread, dark energy, and of course the feeling of what the fuck is going on here. So in this episode, I'm going to do a profile on his date of birth, and I'm going to do a profile on Courtney Love in relation to Kurt Cobain. Now, originally, I wasn't even going to include Courtney or Francis because it's a tribute to Kurt Cobain. However, once I started getting into the details, I found it necessary to bring them in because I believe they do play a part in some shape, way, or form. And the reason why the crow posters here is during my final preparations, I was asked to put the picture of the crow here. So this came from Spirit. This is a Spirit message, and that's all I have to say about it. There's a lot of information. And I tell you, I must just say, as an overview, I did not expect to find what I found, I believe. All right. Kurt Cobain, born February, so we get the 20th, 1967. That gives him the 22-2 and the 22-4 outcome. So I'm just going to show you this quadrant here. And of course, I'm not going to get personal. I'm going to reveal as the public knows it. There are several cautions being given to me during my preparation, and of course, with the book in mind that I'm busy working on, the 27 Club, this gives me an opportunity to do a pass, as it were. But having done prep work for the book, I certainly didn't expect this outcome. So Kurt Cobain, with the 2 and the 20 outcome, 2 gives us the 22-4. Now this is a beautiful power number, 22-4. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. Why it is so relevant for him. But I want to just look within this green block here We have the 20, outcome 2 and 2, and double 2 with an outcome 4. This is his emotional, I wouldn't even say center, but more of his core, full of emotion, and obviously being writing music, important for music. He has his audience, 22. And this is actually quite ironic. The 22 sitting in the day. So let's just say, because that also speaks about the crowds, right? The audiences. Now, if it was positioned in the year that he is born, so even with the 22, if it sat here in the day, if you had a 20 with an outcome 2 in this position, or this position, or even within his outcome numbers, that would say like mass audiences, right? Now, the 20 with an outcome 2, this in a sense confirms his feelings about being famous and fame and being out there. For him, that's not important, the 20 outcome 2 in the day. So it's a means to an end. It's not to say he didn't care less about his fans and audience, no. But in his profile it says, you're going to start with an audience, but there's other plans for you. 22-4. 22-4 is the builder. This is the builder of big things. Okay? So if we had to take another year, he is the builder of new things as well. Here's proof from a numerology point of view that he is the builder of communities, 23-5, and this community is not just say one group of people. This is everyone in the world. 23-5 includes everyone globally, internationally 5. So we can even argue this could be one of his international numbers, right? But in terms of a trend setter and pioneer in his genre, well, he created the genre, right? So 22-4 is the builder. There's evidence of who he was and what his music did. Okay? So with the outcome 45-9, we saw this in Jimi Hendrix as well. 45-9, 27-9. These are all the musician numbers, but also not on an ordinary level. Why? Because there's a 9. 9 is the higher self. This is the highest number, universal number, higher self. One could even say the God number to those maniacal motherfuckers. But to musicians and artists, let's just say, I mean, musicians will, I almost said perfection, but in music, will it ever be perfect? Having some experience with the music industry. But striving for the best possible song, everything in line. So here it goes. 4 is the lyrics. So we can even say creates lyrics. 4 is writing, editing, storyteller. So once he has the lyrics, 4, now the band gets together. 5, and it's never easy. It's a mission. 5 brings around difficulties. And obviously this would include finding the right chords or how to play the song best, right? I'm not infinite when it comes to music, unfortunately, in terms of writing and speaking in music. But the outcome will always be fantastic, but never easy getting there. It's a process. And here is the musician themselves, 2, 7, the musician 7, with an outcome 9 is the higher self musician. So we can argue, well, I don't think it's an argument, but Kurt Cobain would be regarded the best of his generation, the best in his genre. He created it, and that is what it was about for him. It wasn't about the millions and the what's not physical wealth, the material wealth of it. That's part of it, but he was going for number 9, the artiste, the higher self artiste. He wasn't, and yes, I'm going to say it again, he had an audience, he had fans. But in some of the docus that I've seen, he didn't like the hype and stuff. Just leave me alone and let me play my music kind of vibe, right? And born with the 23-5 in the year that he's born is very significant. That talks about purpose, where he comes from. And with these building blocks, he's got all the correct numbers. To the outcome 9. Very, very, very strong. So Courtney Love, I'm just going to bring in the numbers. I'm not necessarily going to do a profile per se, but we just need to identify numbers here. So Courtney born July 9, we have the 7, 9, 16, 7. 16, 7 is important here. We also see an outcome 20 with an outcome 2 in the year that she's born. Let's make her yellow. And then she also has the 36, 9, 27, 9, 18, 9. So in her own right, she was the musician. The 16, 7... The 16-7 is more of the performer. Okay. So in other words, to give you an example, with Kurt Cobain, he is the writer, editor, lyricist. She is the performing artist. Does that make sense? 6 is human performance. Artist, musician, 7, right? So, but she still has similar outcomes. So we identify her, if we have to look at Kurt's outcome, 45, 9, 27, 9. So they share the 27, 9, and we'll get to comparisons in a minute. But to identify her in the middle of a pack of 9s, she has the standout number 36, 9 in comparison. Whereas Kurt Cobain has the 45, 9. Okay. Now, in terms of where they match, I'll just use yellow on his side. So they both have a 22. Now, a 22 in a relationship situation. Here we are talking deep, deep, deep emotions. So as much as they love and as hard as they love, the reverse is also true. So if a blowout happens, a blowout happens. But when a blowout happens, it's a blowout. For example. And then, of course, they match with the 9s. So, of course, they would share a common interest, music, musician, artists, that's the vibe. So there's good connection numbers and also similarity in what they do. So obviously they can relate to each other, right? They come from the same industry, music. Okay. So that's Courtney Love. So I'm not going to get too much into Francis Cobain, although because, and I'll tell you why, at the time of Kurt's passing, she was only 2 years old. So just on a surface level, 18-9, also very creative. Shares that with her mom, 18-9, also creative, 8. So she's got 18-9 and the 8, and I don't know very much about it, to be honest. In fact, to be honest, this was the first time while researching this project that I've heard of her, I've seen a little bit of text about her. But by the sounds of things, she's an artist, painter, creator as well in the main. So 8 is also expression, brings around performance, culture, art. 17-8, from an artist's point of view, this 17-8 would give her the aptitude to not only be, like, let's say, a painter, for argument's sake, but she can go present those paintings, do a show, but not only do a show, but give a nice lecture, speak about it, vocalize the art, whether through song, dance, or standing and talking about it. Okay. I wouldn't want to piss her off with a hidden 26-8. That's the chili sauce. So she has an outcome 47-11-2, 38-29. So she has a life path 11-2. Also very good engaging numbers. Having the 47 and 38 gives her the fortitude to be on stages, be out there in the public, build her own community, and of course, we don't want to do this for free. So here's a good business numbers, 29-11-2. So very good, well-rounded numbers, and of course, the daughter of Kurt Cobain. Alright, so let's look at the build-up and lead-up to what we know as the story, right? So as the narrative goes, it is believed that he passed on this day, and his body was discovered on April the 8th. Now, for me, when I looked at the sequence of days, I believe it is slightly off, in my opinion. Now, April the 5th, if we're going to look at the narrative first, the day starts with a 5. So there's one orange flag for me. Then we have a 14-5. That's also a orange flag for me. And when you have a 5 and a 14-5, speaks about untruths, lies. So if we go to then April the 8th, which would be its +3 reflection day, we see a 26-8, which under normal circumstances would speak about a staging. And I believe it is a staging. Now we ask ourselves, because I've mentioned this before, due to the nature of the situation, using a gun to shoot himself, or I believe it's a shotgun. So 26/8 under normal circumstances would be quite a violent, well, it is a violent number. However, preceding it is another treacherous, violent number, 358. So this for me is the severity of the outcome of the crime. In other words, very detrimental, 5, to the human body, 8, due to the nature of the crime. So there for me already says that's what the first responders can expect when they arrive at the crime scene. However, the crime scene itself is staged, in my opinion. Also, I will just say, so just to be clear, the reason why I don't believe it's the 5th is because of the 26/8. Okay? This number here, 12/3, is a very soft number in the context of the crime. Or let's not say crime yet, in the context of the situation. Because I can tell you now, if someone unalives themselves by, as we know the narrative to be, this is not appropriate, this number. So what is going on here? Something's going on. So therefore, in my opinion, I believe it was staged. So if we do a 3-day build-up, on April the 4th, the day before, we see a 4 plus a 4. So here's a conflict. Okay. I'm just going to bring his date of birth in. I'm just going to 0 it. You'll note that Kurt Cobain has a 4 in the middle of the day there. Okay. So, what do 4s talk about? So, when you have a 4 like this, now on one hand, and I'll give all the options, on one hand, 4 plus a 4, we can argue and say there's a mental illness conflict. Because there is some theory or narrative that due to his hatred of the industry and wanting to get out, brought about an episode of depression, and therefore the narrative plays out as we know it, right? That's one hand. But if it's a 4 plus a 4, it means there must be someone else involved. It can't be 2 Kurts bumping heads. Does that make sense? So that's one issue. So what is this conflict? 4 speaks about legal paperwork, legal documentation, Fours also speak about rules and regulations, procedures and boundaries. And it's followed by an 8. Now I'm going to change this 8 to a red. Because why? 8 can be very violent, as I've mentioned. But the violence is brought about by the conflict. Okay? So here is where there's an issue on this day, right? But now the outcome, we find a 31-4. A 31-4 is an unalived body. The body has already passed by here. So I will just say, by midnight of April the 4th, I believe Kurt would have passed by then, latest, okay, latest. So that's why when I saw the 31-4, any activity past this day, let's just say, so when we go into year, doesn't exist anymore, it's ended. So whatever happens after year, now they believe whether it was done via the autopsy or however it was determined, we can argue, yeah, maybe it was a day or two or whatever the story is. I don't believe it. Or they have a variance range on autopsy results, right? So if we start backtracking some more, we see a 30 with an outcome 3. So here's an outburst. And it always bothered me in the beginning stages, because obviously I've done prep for the book and I've done more prep for the show here. But even as recent as yesterday, now I'm recording this September the 7th, early bells, birds are waking up. Even yesterday, this was bothering me, this 30 outcome 3. Why would there be a feminine outburst if we to believe the narrative, and I hope I've got the narrative correct, but as far as I understand it, he was alone. Okay. So why is there a feminine outburst, energy, female energy outburst, 33, big, this is like a bomb. Which now brings around the conflict. So when they wake up in the morning, or I'm just going to say Kurt and Courtney at some point, when they both wake up in the morning, there's a conflict in the air. So we start seeing trouble from April the 3rd at the end of the day, and we see a conflict with a violent outcome, 8. What is going on? When we enter the +3 reflection summary zone, we see a common contributor to murders, 33-6, by someone familiar. We also have a death of innocence, if we are to believe the narrative. I've looked at all the options and I'll share the options with you as well. The narrative says he did it himself, right? So 16-7 is the number, unfortunately, also for suicide, right? So no issues there. The issue that I'm having, if we to believe the narrative, is this number here. if we follow the sequence of events, 34/7 is a positive number. So this speaks about a marriage, a union, whatever that marriage or union is. Followed by the 25/7. So there's an issue within the union. Two, 5, 7 issue. Now here's also the clincher. He can't be having an issue with himself. So it takes two to tango, is the saying, right? There's someone else involved here. So therefore, in my opinion, this number is not suicide in this case. And I will reveal what I believe it is in a minute. Okay, we can agree that it's getting a little bit complicated. There's something very off about this situation. And I believe when I discovered what it was, it's a bit of a mindfuck, to be honest. So we've highlighted the +3. We've spoken about the +3. So the thing here is the 16/7 is in doubt, right? The question I asked myself is then, the 16/7 is not a suicide. It's a person. And just to refresh, there are two people in the situation. There are two people in the situation. So, in my opinion, the 16/7 becomes a person. (16/7). Spousal situation. I do not take this lightly. I'm telling you, I was trembling earlier. Almost brought to tears a few times doing this, meditating on this. And, you know, each time I type a number, I get a burst of energy. So now we're going to go into the +6, and this is where it gets about the human. So what do we have here? 36/9. Sorry to say. 36/9. You'll recall in the beginning of the episode, if we are to identify a group of 9s in a crowd, then we need to find numbers that will bring them and stand out of the crowd. Like numerology, or like fingerprints, numerology has numbers that become fingerprints. The worst number to see at a crime scene: money, but also speaks about the group. What group, do you ask? Here's the papas and the mamas right here. 3710-1 motherfuckers. Always got to poke their nose in the business, right? And it stinks to high heaven. 14.5. The story as we know it is bullshit. Look at all these transactional numbers. $27,989. Pings on both of them. In fact, there's another fingerprint. 89. Kurt doesn't have the 89, ladies and gentlemen. Kurt doesn't have the 89. Just discovered that now. 89, there's another fingerprint. So we can say fingerprint. So there's the definite fingerprint. Premeditated murder. So the concept of the 27-9 club thus far, having this been the third case, I've done Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. 27 with an outcome 9, premeditated murder. Murder. If you're feeling a little bit shocked as not what was expected, and that the truth. 39-12-3. All right. I want to explain something here quickly. You will recall, it's in the zone here actually. You will recall at the beginning of the episode, sorry for jumping around, but I want to just remind you, the discovery day, remember I said this 12-3 is odd? Let me just give you context, if I didn't make it too clear before. Put yourself in the middle of a Tarantino movie where there's blood and gore, violence like you can't believe, and you're sitting in the center of the scene having tea and cake, but around you and all around you is mayhem. That's why this sticks out like a sore thumb, right? Like it's like inappropriate numbers at a particular scene, okay? So therefore it confirms again staging. And the reason why I say this, so you know what happens? Kurt Cobain gets invited to a meeting. Now, meeting will sound too like organized professional. Let's say there's a gathering. And it even might have a party atmosphere to it. 30 with an outcome 3. But he's invited, so everything looks cool. Everything's cool. So who's here? 16-7. Now, look at this literally. So he wakes up. Hey, there's this thing happening later. 16-7. Now he gets to the thing. Whatever the thing is. If you want to continue to believe the narrative, you're more than welcome. But wherever he went to, 39-12-3. So on the surface, it's like the group, the cool kids, whatever. But now, all of a sudden, during the process, he's actually walked into a trap. He walked into a trap under the guise of, it's all cool, don't worry. And who set the trap? Feminine energy. Now, this is the hard part. This is what I've been struggling with. At the center of the issue and you'll note I've highlighted this 13.4, that is the motive. The motive is the child. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been quivering tears on the brink of eyes as I was putting out these numbers. Do we need proof? So 13.4 is the child. Remember, she was only 2 years old at the time. I'm going to make it purple. 17.8. Now, I'm going to put on another optic. So we got the big daddies and mamas and papas around, motherfuckers. 37.10.1. Yeah, they're sitting as well. 44, sorry to say. Yeah, we have this 31.4. So now we can take it on another level, 31.4, right? So if this is a spousal murder, family related, however, cloaked in other issues, as we know, cloaked in other issues. 31.4 speaks about the breakup of a family. Family is 4. With an outcome 4. Now, interestingly, the conflict is a 4. So why are there family conflicts here? Now, if we keep the optic on you know what, behind the scenes, what family did she really come from or part of? And I'm not literally talking about family, but what organization or grouping would she represent? Because I can tell you now, not all, if someone uses this number for this purpose, and we've been seeing this recently with all the spies and handlers and bullshit, that's a handler number. So why did they want the child? Why did these guys want the child? And remember, the child was only 2 years old. And while putting out this, while in, I believe, sync with Kurt and Spirit, I was asked to put this here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if this analysis is in any way, shape or form near the truth, as revealed, then what kind of world are we living in? All right, ladies and gentlemen, please leave your thoughts and comments. I do love engaging with them. Let's listen to a bit of cool music and take some time out. Watch a comedy. All right, stay safe, stay alert. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.